So we'll begin. Hello, and a very warm welcome to a new term of Philosophy Live. If you are watching for the first time, thank you for joining us. What we generally do during these talks is look at one of the topics or quotes that have been used in the philosophy material and expand on it, with an emphasis on how to make it practical in our own lives. I hope that you've enjoyed your summer and that you've managed to find some moments of rest. I say that because often we can imagine that a holiday will provide us with lots of rest, but we actually just fill the time with an endless stream of activities. And it's common to hear people on returning from a break to say, I need a holiday after that. And another common complaint people suffer from is feeling tired all the time. One reason for this is that many of us do not understand the noble art of resting. You may think that it sounds a little odd to describe resting as a noble art, but let me explain why I chose those words. Some of the meanings of the word noble include virtuous, generous, and self-sacrificing. So how can resting be virtuous? Well, because it is the right thing to do. It brings us back to ourselves and gives us the opportunity to savor the moment, rather than allowing it to rush on by. And each moment is rather special. It will never happen again. When we are restless, we're very scattered. Nothing is clear. Decision-making is difficult, and we may not always act how we would like. We have the saying, I'm all over the place. Making the good choice to rest allows us to reset, gather our forces, and move from there. So how about generous? Surely my resting would only be of benefit to me, and so how could it be called generous? The reason for this is that everything is interconnected. We are beginning to understand this. We all know what it's like to be in the company of a very angry person. You can literally feel the tension. Conversely, we know the feeling of being in a sacred place or in an ancient woodland and how peaceful that can be. If we allow ourselves to rest, to enjoy stillness, it can be a great comfort to ourselves and those around us. And our calm and peaceful state will radiate out and benefit anyone who comes near. A generous act indeed. Self-sacrificing then, how does that fit in? Well, in order to stop the flow of activity and actually sit down and rest, something has to be sacrificed. We have to sacrifice our small individual self with all its desires in order to choose something larger, namely peace. You would think this would be the easiest thing in the world to do, a simple choice. Of course you would choose peace. But the pull of activity once started is very strong. And that is why resting is called an art, because it's something which has to be practiced and refined. This discipline helps us to exercise control over our body and mind, rather than them ruling the show all the time. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk, tells us, it is very important that we relearn the art of resting and relaxation. Not only does it help prevent the onset of many illnesses that develop through chronic tension and worrying, it allows us to clear our minds, focus, and find creative solutions to our problems. So how do we refine the art of resting? We are all aware that the body requires rest on a daily basis in the form of sleep, but this works mainly on the physical level. Our mind and heart require rest too, and we could call that conscious rest. The very simplest way we can do this is by connecting with our breath, which is very handy as it's available all the time. A few minutes simply following the inward and outward breath can be wonderfully calming and restorative. The School of Philosophy and Economic Science encourages us to use 3 practices to achieve this level of rest. They are the pause, the awareness exercise, and meditation. Those of you who are in the school, of course, know this, but it never hurts to have a reminder. We'll start with pausing. The Shankaracharya Sri Shantananda Saraswati, an Indian sage from the Advaita tradition, explains what effect pausing has. He says, "A pause is to bring about a sort of happiness and freshness. It makes one fresh for the next work." The practice of pausing could not be easier. We are simply asked to come to a stop when one activity ends and before the next one starts. There is a natural break here, but we often rush straight in and fill that gap with the next activity. Why does that matter, you may ask? I have a lot to do, and when I'm on a roll, I like to keep moving. Well, let's try a practical example to illustrate this. You see here, I have some juice in this container. Imagine, if you will, that this juice represents you, your physical, mental, and emotional state. When we start to use energy to get jobs done, ripples appear on the water or juice. And if we continue in activity without a break, the ripples get larger. And that has the effect of making us feel agitated. We start making mistakes. We cannot focus on the job in hand. And when we do eventually come to a stop, we feel exhausted. It's also obvious to see that any impressions coming our way won't be received clearly or accurately because of our turbulent state. Compare this now to if we take a pause. The movement built up is allowed to come to rest. We can let the previous action go and return to a state of equilibrium. In that still state, we can receive impressions accurately. We are in the present moment and we can respond from there. Thich Nhat Hanh states, when our mind is calm, we can see reality more clearly, like still water reflecting the trees, the clouds, and the blue sky. Stillness is the foundation of understanding and insight. For those of you who find having an image in mind a useful tool, I could share this story. I was with friends recently in Stays on the East Coast, and we were watching the cormorants. You may have seen them. They're darkly coloured birds who dive for fish and then come to land to dry their wings. I was commenting to my friend that I felt sorry for them, that their feathers are not waterproof and they have to dry them out before they can fly off again. But my friend pointed out that they can enjoy a rest every time they do it, an enforced moment of stillness. We laughed and said that we could do with something like that. And we talked of how we have the pause that we can use, but unlike the cormorant, we have to choose it. Animals are in tune with nature and their own bodies. They rest when they are tired or hurt, as they instinctively know that it will heal them. Whereas we can choose to override our bodily needs and live mainly in our minds. The second training the school offers can help us to reconnect with our bodies. It is called the awareness exercise, and it talks you through connecting with each of the senses. It only takes 2 minutes, but the effect can be quite marked. A feeling of deep relaxation and calm, and of being more in harmony with the present moment and the world around you. You can tune in to Awareness Live on a Wednesday morning if you would like to experience it for yourself. The third form of rest the school offers is mantra meditation, which is available to all students from Part 1 onwards. When practiced properly, meditation is a profoundly potent way of recharging yourself with energy, and yet all you are doing is sitting still for half an hour and repeating a sacred word. It's quite miraculous how it works. The Shankaracharya reminds us, during meditation, No energy from outside comes into our body. The energy is already in the body. How then do we get rest? Because those energies, vibrations, and agitations subside, and their subsidence makes you feel fresh. The next step to explore after we have mastered these resting techniques is to remain at rest at all times, even during activity, by simply observing the action taking place. So next time you have a few spare moments, don't look for an activity to fill them. Allow yourself to enjoy a moment of stillness for the benefit of yourself and everyone around you. So what are you waiting for? Go and do what your school teacher used to tell you to do. Sit down and be quiet. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this talk, please do like it and share it, and have a restful day.